Welcome back, Golf Badgers. This is a new format tonight. Sam is a mile away.
Yeah, probably about a par 10 if you hit a few good shots in the direct line.
Quite a lot for more than a few good shots for me. But I think, we're trying a new format tonight in the hope that we can get better guests on as opposed to you guys listening to me and Sam all the time. And just make it a lot easier for us to podcast, so we could maybe start releasing some more of which hopefully everyone would enjoy.
Yes,
so
we're recording it remotely, aren't we, Bledge? So
but you're
in the same room.
People might see this kind of the clips of the video that Sam's got going here, where he looks awesome against a lovely olive green or a natterjack toad green, and then I've got
toads.
horrendous budget background.
Background, you're credible without one. But yes, for those who can't see us, which hopefully will be the vast majority of people, Bledge and I have returned from, what would you call it, Bledge? Show season.
Show season. I triumvirate for myself.
Yeah, and I just did two of them, but it's kept us slightly occupied, but we have been busy. We have been very busy in our very slight absence from the airwaves. So hopefully, you will be satisfied with the content we've got lined up, because after this one comes out, we have a few in the back catalog, or a few ready to go, Bledge, don't we?
Yeah, we've got some absolute belters that I'm delighted about. We'll keep it all as a secret, but guys that we've always wanted to get on the podcast, and they certainly didn't disappoint, and some really inspirational people, I would say.
Yeah, so keep looking out for notifications, and hopefully you'll subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, and you won't forget to share it to other friends in and around the industry. But enough of that. Bledge, come on. Where have you been? What have you been doing? Talk us through
my show season. Thanks to one of the guys I knock about with, he does my contracting work, Rob Griffiths. I know Rob never listens to this podcast because it's not, well, maybe I'll get him to, but Rob invited me down for a day to go to the Llama show, LAMMA, which is at Birmingham NEC. As everyone knows, I'm obsessed with tractors and farming. So to go to a show that's as big as the NEC, it's absolutely just full of tractors, combines, and there is a crossover between greenkeeping and agriculture, as I'll explain. But it was just eye-opening for me. I absolutely loved it. There was all the tractor manufacturers there, minus John Deere and Class, which was strange. Okay. But I think
they need to advertise their services, Bledge, to the farmer.
Apparently that was the thing, which was kind of a bit strange and a bit disappointing, to be honest. It's the only thing wrong with the show. But I mean, the Valtra stand, amazing. Fendt, Massey Ferguson, New Holland, JCB. Some great demonstrations about like GPS weeding machines, that I reckon might be applied to our industry in the future. When you've got sprayers that are going to identify a weed and sap it, as opposed to spraying 9 hectares worth of chemical in your fairways, you might end up spraying 300 square meters, in total, if that. So very interesting stuff. But one of the funniest observations are the farmers who all kick about in their stereotypical Chelsea boots, jeans, rolled up shirts, small checkered shirts, tweed waistcoats, and have massive hands and fingers from all the hard farming work they do.
Do you think you have to have big hands to be a farmer, or do you think you get big hands? Do you think they carry on growing if you are a farmer?
They grow, yeah. And all, I mean, I'm not one of them. I've got kind of quite nice little delicate hands for my silky guitar.
Well, you're a manager now, Bledge, aren't you? You're not a drafter.
Exactly. I used to have quite rough hands when I was doing my construction days, but they certainly ain't now. But you look at folk like Greg Easton at Royal St George's. Greg has got proper rhino fingers.
Yeah. Well, it's because he's, as you say, he's grafting.
Yeah.
But I think that everyone who listens to this, who is in the greenkeeping space, will understand the significance of the agriculture. But I don't know whether people who are more cursory observers or slightly outside of the industry necessarily will. So, is it worth making the point, do you think, why it is significant, why you as a greenkeeper, as a course manager, are interested at all in what the agriculture industry is doing, and how things maybe feed from one into the other?
You know, I think there certainly is a crossover, especially with more and more golf courses doing construction. We're looking towards bigger bits of kit, bigger bits of plant. We're looking more to GPS, to autonomous things. I mean, the GPS thing's huge. Now, you watch these agricultural farmers, when they're cultivating a field, there's no time wasted, the way the tractors turn, the way that we can use any golf courses that have got kind of quite high-end tractors, and there's a lot of us that do, with headland management systems. So the way that you can press one button in a tractor and then it lifts the 3-point linkage up, it turns the PTO off, it turns you into two-wheel drive to turn, and then all the reverse to go back into your next line at the touch of one button. All these agricultural terms and systems are coming across to our industry. I've only spent today, actually, with our first assistant, Chris, and senior greenkeeper Peter. We've been walking the fairways with a GPS trolley for our new GPS sprayer. That a lot of guys have got GPS sprayers, and this is all Starfire stuff, John Deere Starfire, that has been used for the last decade plus, I think, in agriculture, but it's winging its way across to greenkeeping. And you won't only be using that. You see it shows at Harrogate and the GIS or GCSAA. It's Starfire as the yellow thing that you had. We got a picture of you the other week on that sprayer. The Starfire gets taken across from machine to machine. You can use it for all sorts of stuff now. In fact, they had it on all their fairway mowers in America this week.
That's cool. Well, I suppose that's the point I'm getting at, isn't it? Like how much bigger the agriculture space is obviously, to the golf space, and the amount of the millions and millions of dollars in R&D that John Deere and the like can invest into creating new technologies. But really, it's agriculture that pays for that, isn't it?
Exactly.
Golf and greenkeeping can sort of get the benefits off the back of it, as things that are just as applicable to mowing fine sports turf are also relevant to maintaining thousands of hectares of the biggest fields and farms around the world.
Well, that's exactly it, and we're piggybacking off it. And I think when you look at the GPS setup, we're mapping out our tees today, and they're not called tees; they're called farms.
Is that right?
Everything's in agriculture. Yeah. A farm would be. A farm is the hole, actually. The farm, I'm pretty sure the farm is the hole, and the fields where are the tees. So, yeah, it's all ag speak, but it's an eye opener. And I would kind of, for a nice day out, it was free as well, which is nice. Get yourselves along to the NEC in Birmingham, and that was, trying to think when that was. It must have been second week in January, just before BTME. So, super day out. Get yourself along, and all the tractors are all open as well, so you can go and have a seat in them. But the weirdest thing is, at the far end of the show, there was a farming simulator league.
Farming simulator,
and there was loads. This is I love people watching. And the best thing about this was just actually sitting back and watching all the old school farmers sitting with their hands, sleeves rolled up, still big hands, big digits, sitting with their hands folded, shaking their heads at all these people playing farming simulator games on the computer, combining the fields, ploughing the fields, headset in, competitions against someone else on the other side of the world, and there's literally in their gaming chairs, and you're watching the big screen, and this guy's just hammering his combine up and down a field, just getting the wheat in. And
it's funny, isn't it, how people do like mowing grass, getting on those kind of things. If you're not in the if you don't actually have to do it for a living, I guess so many people get a bit of a cathartic, it's a natural kind of urge, isn't it, to go out there and work the land for people. So I can kind of
I
see
have a
that.
feeling that the people that were doing farming simulators were farmers, though. I think they were. I think they were farmers' sons and daughters, and like older, in fact, as well. I just have a feeling that they were. It's part of the why would they be there?
Well,
But
there you go. Don't knock it till you try it, Bledge. So you might be a
yes,
greenkeeping simulator before long.
mm,
And from Lama, you went to, well, we both went to BTME.
yes, super show this year, biggest show in BTME history. Uh, well attended, super education. Started off the week on, I went up on the Monday morning and started with the RNA. I was lucky enough to sit up on stage with Alistair Beggs, and we sat there with Adam Newton from the RNA and Michael Mann from Walton Heath, and we talked about the Open, Women's Open, question answer session, a great compare. Is that the right word? Compare.
Yeah.
That asked us all the questions, and I think that was about an hour long in the Breakfast Club. Really enjoyed that. I think it was filmed because I seen some cameras. It was completely packed out, which was great to see 8 o'clock on a Monday morning. No awkward questions from the crowd. Even Scott Aitchison had a good one about asking about ranges and how they become the 19th hole. So I was dreading when he stood up to what's he going to come out with. But no, he was great. Aye. So yeah, that was brilliant. The show itself was super. Actually learned something this year. To the Thursday of the show, when something I've never ever attended. I've always went out on the Wednesday night, stayed over, and then just fired up the road 8-9 o'clock on Thursday morning. But the Thursday was superb. Wandered around on my own. Actually managed to do all my business and speak to all the people I wanted to speak to. I needed to see Rainbird about nozzle questions I had in certain old heads, and I wanted to finish up my I never put my order in for all my fertilizer and materials order until I come back, because I wanted to speak to other people about other things face to face. So I actually got time to do that, because what I really don't like doing at these shows, and I try not to, is if I want to see someone and they're speaking to someone else, if it looks serious, then I'll kind of edge back. But it was great on Thursday that I could go up to these people knowing that they actually do have time to speak to me, and just Thursday morning was superb. I think a lot of reps probably won't thank me for saying that, because everyone wants to get home on Thursday. But yeah, it was nice.
What do you, that was interesting. I not really realised. I thought that for you it was more of a, seeing friends, the networking elements, the great opportunity at a poor time of the year to actually catch up with folks that you might not see then for another 12 months. But I hadn't realised that those sorts of actual real practical elements as well, in terms of placing orders and refining what you might actually use for the year. So what else do you look for to take? What do you look to get from Harrogate as a course manager?
Well, you've got all the kind of catalogues online to your disposal, and your catalogues, the physical catalogues in your office that you might have, but you can't actually beat talking to a rep face to face and saying, look, is this actually right? Is there a better way we can be doing this? And they come into your office the odd time, and they'll catch up with you, and I tend to stick to the same kind of people. But you really need to broaden your horizons a lot of the time and look at other companies that are doing, maybe there's new chemicals on show this year, and there's a lot of new machinery that we'd never actually seen that was released. And I think for me, the American one was actually even more enlightening, because it's stuff that we don't have access to the UK that we really could do, and you only have access by looking outside for that, which we can go on to discuss. But there was a load of new products released this year that no one knows about, and there's a lot of reps that move companies that and you've got a relationship with, and they want to tell you about the stuff that they're using. So yeah, we're going to try a few different things this year on the back of that, so that's quite exciting.
Okay, so For those who have never been to the show or never will go to the show, it's probably worth just describing a little. So the first few days, am I right in saying, Bledge, they're generally education before the
Yes.
show floor opens itself.
Saturday, Sunday are classes, so half-day classes, full-day classes. Monday, Tuesday, we've got the same again, but we've also got the conference. The conference is a mix of different ways, different teachings and different people. It could be people from completely outside the industry coming in. It could be people from inside. So an example being you might have Lee Strutt from Cabot talking about, I think this year, Lee missed it because I wasn't at the conference. He was talking about, I guess, personal experiences in the mental health side of things. And then your next person you might have coming up is, like, for example, the best speaker I've ever seen at Harrogate was the lady who was Richard Branson's right-hand woman at Virgin.
Okay.
And she talked about how it's marketed, how she helped run Virgin, and all her experiences and how she went on to manage the volunteers at the London Marathon. A lot of this is completely relative to our industry because it's about how managing people. So that really opened my mind. And there's people every single year at Harrogate that'll be opening everyone else's mind because the Sammy Strutt and Debs do a brilliant job of choosing the people from all over the planet to talk, and people that are not necessarily greenkeepers. And I think that's pretty special. And honestly, they've ticked every single box for the diversity they've got there. And it really is superb.
I think that's an interesting point. We've been wanting to do some podcasts for a long while, and we hopefully will get to soon on actually managing teams and all of those kind of people. And obviously, not so long ago, you spoke to Phil Helm, and I thought that was a great chat that I missed out on, but a great chat on that very subject. And there's probably a lot more we can do, because I guess it's like many jobs, many career paths outside of golf, whether you're a greenkeeper or whatever it may be. You clearly have a competency and a passion and an ability for a certain, like you said before, you were on the tools, building stuff, growing stuff in, and then you progress and get promoted to a point where you no longer have to then do the things that got you into that position. And the skill set you then require is actually a completely different one. It's not necessarily about the greenkeeping side of things quite so much. Of course, it's still as important as ever, but it's more of a management role, Bledge. And do you think that those kind of opportunities and the things that are put on at BTME and perhaps at other times of the year as well allow you to round out the skill set required to actually be a course manager in 2024?
Exactly that. And as greenkeepers, we're never taught to do that. We're taught how to manage a golf course. And yet, when you get promoted, like 9 out of 10 of us don't have the skill set to manage people. Yeah, I think Harrogate and BTME, Continue to Learn, it's called, actually gives you the skill set to be able to do that. And one of the biggest things, actually, that Harrogate gives me, it gives me the buzz and the drive when I get back to work. I come back to work hyped. And it's huge for me. I'm like, this is great. You feel really lucky to be part of this industry, which I always do, but even more so when I return from Harrogate, because
you're energetic and you're passionate, and it's especially at the time of year when, God, it feels like it's been going on for half of last year as well. But yes, I suppose it's the perfect time just to reinvigorate yourself before the spring starts, and you get a bit more motivation from the weather.
Well, you meet people at Harrogate, which is great. You meet them in the halls, people that I've worked all over Europe with, the people that I've worked in Britain with, and all the people I've met along the way. And it's actually every year that I see them. And granted, you see quite a lot of them in Wetherspoons of an evening, but or we have meals out where we all catch up, and we're like-minded people. And I've got a great WhatsApp group. Some of the boys always listen to this. Shout out to them. Love them to bits. They're actually some of my closest friends. There's 20 of us. We've 10 years. We've had this WhatsApp group where we share our moans, we share our dilemmas, we share our fun photos of the golf course and positivity and negativity. And we had a super meal this year. You need to join us next year, Badge, actually, I think.
Yeah, I'd love to.
But
But that's kind of for me, you know, as this is only my second BTME that I've attended, but that's kind of what you've just described there in your WhatsApp group is Harrogate in miniature. It's the ability with like-minded people in similar positions. I can only imagine that there must be many occasions. Okay, you're leading a good-sized team at Hoylake, but I know that there are loads of guys out there who have a team half the size or a tiny fraction again, or might just be one guy by himself, one guy or girl by himself out there cutting grass, battling the elements, battling everything else, without support. And it must be a lonely place at times. And the ability to just reach into your phone and find that there are actually other people out there. You're not alone. You're not fighting these things just by yourself. They are difficult problems, and they all have their individuality, but they are probably shared.
I come back from BTME with a couple of extra phone numbers every year, and people that I actually I'm good at keeping in touch with people in the most part, and I think it's super important, and that's what gives you the drive. You know, we are a one-off in our community. You know, you don't get that at a building conference, do you? You know, you don't get loads of builders getting together to talk about how they lay their bricks or put their roofs on. You know, it's not the same. Whereas one of the biggest things, actually, I'll tell you this, biggest kind of chuff on I got at Harrogate was seeing you walking about the show on your own, and it's the same at GIS, and I love watching you just wander off and you go into every fertilizer. You were in the Aitken stand, you were in the Campy stand, you were in Toro, John Deere, and I was like just kind of watching, saying, Jesus, he just loves meeting all these people.
Yeah.
I know, but it's great to see for me that like you take your job so seriously, and like you're an architect, you're not a greenkeeper, but you are really trying to get into learn every part of it.
I saw spent a bit of time chatting with James Edwards. You know, James is fantastic, and he's done so much, particularly making a name for himself in really turning, I'd say, academy, you know, short game areas and practice facilities that were only ever a bolt-on, you know, field at the end of the day. Well, he's turned them from a field into an art form, and it's not just that's doing James a disservice. There's a hell of a lot more that he does besides that. But we had a great chat we must have been talking for the thick end of an hour, as you do when you get slightly carried away, and you have a passion. But we were talking on that point, and I think that for us to do our jobs as architects, I make this point time and time again. It's all well and good saying, "Oh, this is what you should do," if you can wave a magic wand and have, you know, and have £10 million in your budget. And you should start there. You should. I humbly believe that. I would never start at something that's a half-cocked idea, because you know that you might never get there. It just might take longer. You don't have to do everything overnight, but really understanding your side of the industry and trying to learn as much as possible, and you know, seeing trends as they change and talking to people and sharing ideas and having an understanding of the greenkeeping space. Because ultimately, if we design something that you can't maintain, or is too expensive to maintain, or too difficult to maintain, then we may as well have never bothered in the first place, because it ain't going to last. And Colt used to say that, you know, he said the true test of a golf course is, will it last? And I think that is as relevant now as it ever was. So it's incumbent on me, if I want to be half decent at my job, I've got to go and learn as much as possible about greenkeeping, about the maintenance side of things, about the agronomy, about the drainage, about the vegetation, you know, as many things as possible, because it is such a multifaceted role to help, you know, deliver a 200 odd acre, 150, 100 acre site, whatever it is. This is coherent and works, and this is enjoyable as it possibly can be.
We need to get you out acres. We're on hectares.
Okay, hectares. What? 60
I can't
hectares.
deal with it. I've just spent the last week in America talking about acres, pounds, and bloody ounces, and oh my god, and square feet. It's no,
Well,
you're completely
I
right.
know
You know,
people
I've
that in
also
meters and then play golf in yards.
I
So
know.
I'm always.
Oh yeah, I know that's weird, isn't it? But the job that he did down at Stoneham at Matt's place, his short game area down there, was unbelievable. And I know that he's done Fox Hills as well recently, hasn't he? And
He's really carved out
good
a
week, maybe.
niche, I think, in that space. And I am not a practicer.
I've never ever seen you practice.
No, I'm not good at practicing. But I know
Practice
too many
in the bar.
Well, exactly. I know how important it is, though. I don't belittle it.
Oh, it's massive, especially these days. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's getting more and more important, actually. People sometimes don't have time to go and play 18 holes, but they can go and hit some balls or go to chipping green. In fact, I quite, believe it or not, I'm a practicer. I like to practice. It's good fun. But
hopefully your game will start showing the fruits of those labours at some point, Bledge.
Let's not get carried away. But can I tell you the most impressive thing I've seen at Harrogate? I was actually looking through my photos just to remind myself. But firstly, we'll talk about the opening ceremony. The celebration was really good. Enjoyed that. Did you go to
that? Is that the one?
Jazzy golfer.
Yeah. I was there.
That was super. Really enjoyed that. It was
with
the
awards.
Good to see.
Is it worth talking about some of the awards? Because it's interesting to see, what gets celebrated and supported and how important that is.
Exactly.
And there was I thought a really nice range of things from your mate Michael Mann at Walton Heath winning.
I couldn't have happened to a better team. I mean, I love Wes and Mike there. I know them really well, and thoroughly deserved. Smashing team down there. Amazing championship they had with the ladies, and it was actually really nice to see Mike thanked personally by the winner, which is really cool. Yes. And but you met the guys from a course in Dudley, because Jimmy the Mower, I think he's a Brummie, possibly. And the funny thing was, right, and I only noticed when Carl had told me about it. He said, "Did you see the joke?" And I was like, "Oh, not really." But we had, "Hi, I'm Martin Slumbers. I'm in Panama," and they cut to Martin Slumbers at Panama because he was at the Asian Amateur or Mid-Am, and he's at this lovely Panama in the background, and he announced, and the winner is Michael Mann at Walton Heath, and it was really kind of Martin and fantastic sunshine in Panama, and then the next one was like, "All right, I'm Jimmy the Mower. I'm in Dudley." And he was in this like industrial estate with all this litter behind him, and it was an absolute dive.
Wouldn't it have been better though if Martin Slumbers had announced from Panama, he'd announced Dudley, and Jimmy the Mower had announced Walton Heath? I think.
I think that was Carl's kind of joke that it was kind of doing the Birmingham one. I'm pretty sure it was Dudley, but I don't know. I'm no doubt someone listening. I'll be listening to this and. But that was the guy saved them from closure.
Yes, and amazing. And we need to, as I say, just completely. You're in your own little lane. You don't notice necessarily everything, people's battles and plights going on. So I thought all credit there to actually shine a light on that a little bit, and hopefully when my jet lag subsides, we'll be able to actually talk to those guys as well and learn a bit more about what went on there and everything that they did.
And I could apologise to them face to face for my poor attempt at a Birmingham accent or a Dudley accent.
Well, at least you're consistently bad across the board, Bledge. I've got no excuse.
Also, massive shout out to Scott Aitchison and the team at Royal Dornoch for winning the Geo Award.
Yeah,
golf the Environment Award, which there was some hilarious photos kicking about of Scott parading said award in Witherspoons.
Yeah, that was magnificent.
At the top of the stairs, which I absolutely loved.
No, that was. And the real main event, Bledge, is finally finally a Jay Bledge is a celebrity at Harrogate, and Jenny Bledge was recognised for everything she's doing with kickstarting her initiative. So we'll get her on the
Yeah, that
podcast.
was really cool. Yeah.
Why don't you talk a little bit about First Green and what she's doing there?
Aye, so Jen, they played a video about the First Green initiative, and I think, well, because Jen lives here, obviously, and we've got access to the club. We did the First Green pilot event here with 40 kids from West Kirby Primary School. So that's really taken off. And in fact, I went up to share a stand up there on the bigger stand. Jen's first time after, like, me and Jen married for 10 years now, and been together for, I don't know, 15 plus or something. And she's known me to go to Harrogate every one of these years, and she's always interested in about what happens there. So for her to attend this year, it wasn't weird for me at all, really. I didn't. It was no issue at all with it. It was cool, and she was like rammed all week. There was a queue of guys trying to get in to speak to her about First Green, and she's got a massive list of golf clubs that are interested in doing events now. So, well, yeah, we'll get her on so she can talk about it more. Because it's really, really important.
Listen to that, because we often talk about how recruitment across the industry and trying to get people in to be greenkeepers in the first place. I think that we need to accept as golfers, first and foremost, I love playing golf, and without you and everyone in the industry, we don't have a golf course to play. We just have a field of long grass. And that doesn't work. So we got to think in the long term. So the more that we can do to actually get people in, and that can be right now trying to recruit people into the industry, but also in looking into the long term, and clearly putting golf and the industry on people's minds as kids in primary schools can only be a good thing, and put something at the back of their minds that they can maybe think is a genuine and viable opportunity for them, rather than just the half dozen things that generally a school might push you towards.
Exactly, and the way that, like, we're at the risk of it falling off a cliff edge here with kids that are, I don't know, seeing that there might be easier routes to earn money, and kind of being blindsided by that, when you actually need to show people that are ready to come out of school how an awesome an industry it is. Because if we don't do that, then we're going to really struggle to bring on apprentices coming on from now on. I mean, I know myself that it's really difficult to get good people. We were lucky to get a decent apprentice recently, but it's hard, like hen's teeth, and we need to get to the root of the problem. If we get to the root of that, which essentially, albeit the pilot event we did was with 10-year-olds, which isn't what we're kind of going after, but it was a pilot event. We wanted to see if it worked. So it was successful. So we can start to go up the ages now, and it's something we're definitely going to do every year. But Jen's stand was very popular, and in fact, so much so that she was just like at the end of whirlwind, But in true Harrogate fashion, as Jim Croxton says to Jen, "Oh, God, Jen, you really did embrace Harrogate with a nightlife." So I mean, it's all about that as well. We go out and have fun at nights, and there's always a few sore heads kicking about. Myself on Wednesday, actually, Sam, I wasn't in great form.
No,
I don't know.
Well, that was the day we sat down to record a few podcasts, didn't we? So,
and that's the thing. There's no like nightclubs, or like, I think I was tucked up. 1 o'clock was my latest one, and I was 11:30 the rest of them. But yeah,
well, very good, pal. But
dull.
But I think that joking aside, that kind of Weatherspoons thing is again a real part of it, as far as I can tell. You go in there, and it's a bloody enormous place, isn't it? But it's standing room only. But that's what it's about, the fact that you can meet and catch up with and see all these people, and they're there having a good time. And
what do you think people are talking about in there, Sam? They're talking about work. They're talking about greenkeeping. They're talking about their courses. They're talking about what they've done this winter.
Yeah.
They're talking about catching up next year. I'll come up to your place, or why don't we meet up? Or that's what they're doing. They're not in there like mucking about. All right, we're talking about this stuff, but greenkeepers talk about work.
And I think you're absolutely right. And I think, do you imagine there's a lot of people, a lot of Greens chairmen, a lot of secretaries of clubs think that they are just on a bit of a jolly, and that going to Harrogate is, it's all about a piss up, and it's not serious, and it's not education, and it's not something to be encouraged, when the reality is actually the exact opposite of that.
I don't think they do, to be honest. I think they're pretty stupid if they do. There's a couple of Greens chairmen go. I see they always see the Greens chairman from Inglestree Park there. He's a good guy, and yeah, I mean, not to say that I'm not sure my Greens chairman would want to go. It would probably be a bit too much for him, but like too much chat of greenkeeping constantly. But it's I don't think they do.
Good. Well,
because it's far from that.
Well, exactly. That is the reality. And okay, so Harrogate rounded out, and we're all exhausted.
One more thing to talk about Harrogate.
Go on.
Wait. This is a Husqvarna Sciora.
Was this your favourite or Bledge?
It was probably one of the kind of most eye-opening things for me. Obviously, every year at Harrogate there's robotic mowers, yeah, but this is the first year I've actually taken a lot more interest and a lot more time, and we had a fantastic chat with the guy there. And actually, I took you to the stand in America to kind of talk again about it. There are courses in Britain that are running robotic mowers, full fleets of, and in Europe, geez, I mean, we're going to get William Bogarts on the podcast in the future. He's Dutch Greenkeeper of the Year. He's got I just shin my mows yard in the morning, shin my girls yard, cut the fairways. Is that good?
Possible? Yeah, like we're back in Dudley.
So, but I mean, this Husqvarna Sciora is.
It's like a Roomba. It's like a it's like they're called Roombas, aren't they? The little Hoover things that poodle around.
Yeah.
It's like that's probably what airways, isn't it?
Is it cut a meter wide, maybe, if we're lucky? But essentially,
it was amazing.
Proper bit of kit.
Go in, charge themselves, stick to the area, and you just leave them. I always thought that you would set them out at night, and by the time you arrived in the morning, they'd kind of done their job. But I hadn't realised that a lot of places just have them out 24/7, and you're playing golf whilst these things are pootling along beside you, and a bit of a novelty. But for those who perhaps might think that, oh God, the robots are coming for our jobs, God, I mean, the ability to cut fairways to where I'd like to see fairways. I'm always banging on about space, having more space to play golf, create these angles and all the rest of it. But if you've got a small team, you're never going to be able to do that. So if you can basically just outsource, really, the actual sat on the back of a mower part of your job, at the end of the day, I don't want a skilled greenkeeper just sat on the back of a mower. If you can have a robot do that, I'd much rather, from my point of view, those guys be doing the details stuff, hand cutting the greens and getting the bunkers in the right places. And do you see that, Bledge, as sort of the way it's going, freeing up resources for more technical roles?
100%. I think let's kind of go back to the start with these mowers. They have 3 discs that have like Stanley knife blades underneath. What do you call them? Just a Stanley knife. That's the right word, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they spin round and cut the grass and go as low as 10 millimeters. Obviously, this would be for courses that don't box their clip-ins. Sadly, we do at Hoylake, but there could be a place for them on like a semi-rough here. And
just for context, literally height, Bledge, 10 mil. That's what
10 mil is a decent short fairway. That's a short fairway. So 10 mil actually would be quite a lot of Parkland courses might cut their approaches at 10 mil. You could probably cut your tees at 10 mil as well,
Okay.
Especially when they're cut often. The frequency of cut is sometimes more important than height. So, but we cut our fairways here at like 11. So, I think, 10 mil for a Partland's actually quite short, you know, and you could cut when there's worm casts, when it's wet because they're so light, when you can't get another mower out. I mean, this is an absolute game changer. You're talking £25,000 for one of these mowers. So you get 3 of them for the price of a rough mower or a fairway mower. And they literally go all the time. So there's a brilliant YouTube link. Maybe we could probably attach it to the notes on this.
Yeah, I'm sure we can.
Warren Bevan, I can't remember his golf course, near, it might be near Cheshire, I'm not sure, or maybe it's Middle England somewhere, but he has a fleet of them, and they just go all the time. They cut for 4 hours, they go back, they charge up for 3, back out, always in rotation, they start again when it's time. And you can literally, you can tell it to cut the fairway at 10 mil and then go and cut the first band of semi at 1 inch, and it just goes, and it just raises it there and then. It's fuel savings. You can go out in any weather and do it. There's a GPS tagged, so obviously you can't really steal them, or you could, but you know where they are. So there's a lot of pluses in this, and I see it possibly. I've got a demo coming in to have a bash on our semi-rough. My kind of worry is maybe that it won't climb certain areas, but then you could get a mower that does climb in these areas, because the Sierra is kind of more for flat ground, but I hope I'm pronouncing it properly. But the rest of the Husqvarna range can do the slopes. So, I mean, the range, you could do the range, you could do, I mean, geez, the perfect example would be the municipal, God bless its soul, that died here a few years ago. That, I mean, if that's ever resurrected, that could just be run by a whole fleet of robot mowers, you know, and just protected by high fencing, so people can't get in to muck about with them.
But you're right, Bledge. I think that in terms of progress and opportunity, I have talked long on this subject on this podcast about my sort of, not necessarily frustration, but observation that fairways will get narrower, greens get smaller, and at the end of the day, I understand. You know, it's you've got so many hours in the day, you've got so many members of staff, there's so much you can do, and you're not looking to try and have an easy life. I do not subscribe for 1 second, no matter what some members of some clubs might say. I do not subscribe for 1 second that the greenkeepers out there are just doing things for an easy life. They are doing to the best of their ability what they can, but there are only so many hours in the day. And if this allows people to hopefully buy a few more hours in the day and improve the quality of the course, to get onto the things that are maybe just that bit down the to-do list, then they never quite get there as much as they'd like to. But they run out of time by the time that you have cut 10 hectares of fairway or whatever it might be. You know, what a great opportunity it is to really try and improve the quality and improve people's productivity going forward. So I'm excited to see it advance.
I think you've got to start somewhere. I know that robots have been in the go for quite a while, but they're really starting to seriously get in the go now, and people are starting to kind of invest in it and buying it more often, because they're like, it's like electric cars. A lot of people are like, let's just see how it goes. And now people are like, yeah, that's actually works.
It's got to get to a point where you can look at it and go, oh, okay, yeah, it's almost there. And then they get to the point where it is there. And then all of a sudden, bang, it's like, yeah, okay, now, wow, this makes sense now. And it can really take off and flourish. So hopefully we're not too far away from that point.
There'll be guys listening to this podcast that have had robots for a while and that have been a success for them. Hats off, it's super.
Yeah,
I do see a place for them here, but and not wall to wall, obviously. But yeah, there definitely is a place.
No, it would be very, very interesting to see. Okay, well, that's a topic there that straddles both BTME, where you saw it first, and Phoenix, where you took me to go and have a look. So once Harrogate finished, we respectively went to our homes, and it only felt like a short amount of time before we were back on an airplane and going to the American equivalent of the show.
So Phoenix, yeah, never been before. I've flown over it once, long way away. I mean, what flight was it? 11 hours was it?
Well, I actually flew to LA, so I went to see a friend and play a bit of golf in LA before flying backwards then to Phoenix. So it just made a long journey even longer. But yeah,
should we tell everyone where you played?
not a secret, Bledge. I played at Riviera, which was quite nice. There, that was a. Have you ever been there, Bledge?
I've driven through LA, but I've never stopped off.
You've not been to Riv, okay?
No, it's on the list.
Well, it was as big a treat as I was expecting, and as you might expect. I think they've got there's very, very few members, and it's intensely private and by invitation only. And in addition to that, it was only a week and a half before the Genesis, because I think straight after Phoenix. Well, no, it must have been 2 weeks, because we were then at Phoenix. The following week they have the tour stop there, and then I think they're in LA. So it was 2 weeks basically before all of the stars arrived. So they were putting up the last of the hospitality areas and everything else. But the course was amazing. But I would say I am such a big fan of George C. Thomas, and if anyone has ever read the wonderful book he did, which is called Golf Course Architecture in America, I think he wrote this in about 1927 from memory, or certainly towards the end of the 20s. And it was before Riviera was built. But he designed 3 courses: Bel Air, Riviera, and LA Country Club. And LA Country Club has been intensely private, as the 3 of them are, in fact. But they had the Walker Cup in 2017. Matthew from Hoylake, he played in that Walker Cup, so a bunch of us went over to watch him and support him. And that was just one of the most extraordinary golf courses that I'd seen at that point, in terms of the style of golf that I love, the real thinking golf, where it's all about the angles and trying to plot your way around. So I was lucky enough to go back over a few times afterwards on a couple of separate occasions and play the North Course and the South Course at LA, but I'd never played Riviera. And having watched it for years and years and years on TV, it was somewhere that I was, I didn't want to pass up an opportunity if I was going to be roughly in that part of America. And Phoenix.
How narrow is that first fairway?
Yeah, it's probably half the width it was when it was designed, is what I'd say. I get the first fairway.
On comparison, is it the same width as our first fairway?
Yeah,
like the
second not our first fairway at Hoylake, because members' first fairway, because that is probably the widest. But it's probably the same width as our second fairway. It's narrow.
All right. Okay.
It's dead straight, and then it gets to a point, and it's got the fairway sort of ends. But it's
plumb straight, isn't it?
It's dead straight, and you can see down the left-hand side where they had the contractor's compound. There's this old I'd call this a cop coming from Hoylake, but this old it's only a couple of feet high. There's this berm, and the whole point, the way the green's angled, the way it's oriented, and the green's smaller, it doesn't have quite the same extreme angularity as it would have done originally. But you could see the benefits of playing down the left-hand side and opening the green up, taking on the out of bounds. But now that aggressive side of the fairway is actually rough. So there is no, they kind of got away slightly from some of the amazing architecture. But it was my first time playing on Kikuyu grass, Bledge. Have you ever played on? Well, you played.
I've never played in Kikuyu,
no. And obviously in America, most of the golf is designed to be played through the air and spun and stopped. But you can just tell Riviera is not designed to be played like that. It's designed to be played with the ball landing short of the greens and to be run into the putting surfaces. So it's one of those things where your mind's telling you one thing and the reality is quite another. Because if you try, if you were 20 yards short of the green and you pulled a 7-iron to play a chip and run shot,
it just stops.
It would just stop. Yeah, it would go halfway. So you only really have a lob wedge in your hand for all of the shots, wherever you may be. And I found that's quite sad, but God, I mean, it was just an extraordinary experience. And And the holes that everyone knows, 10, the famous 10th hole, one of the risk and reward par fours.
And you. I remember you saying I mean, you're long. You hit the ball 60, 70 yards past me, and I don't know. Your driver swing speed must be 115 or something like that. But you said that was you couldn't even get up anywhere near that.
No, there's
these
no
boys
chance,
are
no
hitting.
chance. But then our host was telling us how they really, really dry out those fairways to give them the best chance possible of experiencing those kind of conditions, or as close to as possible for the championship there as possible. So, and look, those guys are seriously long, but the tees that we played, I think it was about 315. 15 yards. There was probably a one club wind that it was into, and as I say, there was not 1 yard of run on the driver. So there's no way that I'm carrying it the equivalent of 330 something through the air into a breeze on the fly. So yes, it's not quite the same optionality in that regard, but when I ended up being out left, came up just short, and flukily chipped in. It wouldn't. I could have tried that 10 times, and it wouldn't have gone in again. But
did you get a 3? Did you?
Well, but it was never. There were so many ways of playing the hole, but I think the quicker you make it, the softer you make it in certain aspects as well. There were probably fewer ways that the best players would actually try and play the hole. So that was interesting. But I must say, the run of 4, the great par 3 there, 5 was an amazing hole.
Was it with a bunker in the middle of the green?
6, yeah, that's 6, I think. The par 3 there. And then 7.
There's loads of quirky, great features in that course.
It's quirky as hell. Even now.
18th up there.
And massive elevation change, Bledge. If I just hit a normal, you know how low my driver goes, but if I hit a normal one, I might not have cleared the hill to get up to the fairway. I had to kind of consciously try and get it going up in the air. But it's just bold and dramatic and an extraordinary place. So I was very, very privileged to play there. But then I hopped back on a plane and flew from Burbank Airport, which was a revelation. Don't fly if you're in LA. Top tip: if you're in LA and you're flying to anywhere internally in America, bloody don't go to LAX. Go to Burbank. It was amazing.
Oh, is it good?
Oh, breeze straight through. Clubs on the plane. No one in the queue. Through security.
PJ out of there. You PJ in it.
Didn't have to take any of my laptop or anything out of my carry-on bag. Straight on the magnificent. It must have been what flying was like 50 years ago before it became such a misery. But then into Phoenix and straight into the American version of the show, Bledge. So it was a great treat for me as my second time going to that show to go to the education element and watching my mate James Bledge kick off the entire thing. So why don't you talk a little bit about that and your opening segment there?
Yeah, that was really cool. I'd always had it on a bucket list. A lot of my friends have spoke there, and I always thought, well, the only chance I'll ever get to do that is after I've hosted something like the Open, because people are interested. So I put in a proposal to talk, and it was accepted. I sent them my talk and PowerPoint, and they were happy with it. And then, I kicked off the whole show, 8 o'clock in the morning, which I was kind of worried about because there was loads of people queuing. I mean, I remember texting you saying, you might be lucky to get into this because the queue was huge to get your badge.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, that probably maybe had a bit an impact. But near the end, the last half hour of the talk, I know there was no seats. I don't think it was bums in every seat, which was great. Talk went well, no technical problems, and I felt that I was kind of a wee bit worried about it because my John McLaughlin was laughing. This is sweet coming from him, but John was laughing about the fact that I wasn't getting understood in America. Sorry, sir, I don't know what you're saying. The women in the hotel, the women in the restaurant. In fact, I even said thanks for a meal one night, and I asked her thanks for the bill or whatever, and she went, "Sorry, I don't understand." I was like, just saying thanks. So I was kind of a bit paranoid that people wouldn't understand, so I spoke even slower than usual and tried to pronounce everything. And yeah, it went down well. Thank God Sammy Strutt was in the crowd, because I got a few laughs, and yourself. Otherwise, a lot of my jokes bombed. But I think that was always going to happen. But yeah, it
Americans
was.
for that, Bledge.
I know it was really enjoyable. I'm delighted to have done it, and there were some great questions at the end,
Yeah.
which was really cool. I don't think it was filmed, so we'll never ever see it. But it was, yeah, I was really honoured to have done it, and great to talk about Hoylake and the Open and kind of the opportunities that I had with it. But the best thing was, I mean, the amount of people, we were even sitting watching the dogs, and one of the ladies had come up to us and said, "Oh, I watched your talk. It was brilliant. Really enjoyed it." And there's quite a lot of people who were just kind of just bumping into us in the show and just saying, "I enjoyed your talk." So that's great for me. I love that kind of thing. I love meeting new people, and we got loads of new contacts through that. And there's people emailed us since, and like got in touch via Twitter or whatever. So it's super. I got a great buzz out of that.
You did well. As it was great to see, and great to see Hoylake sort of being talked about and people so interested in what you had to say about it. So
You find it like a lot of people still don't see outside of the States. Even though the Open's the biggest golf championship in the world, it's people are like, "Oh, right, okay, when's that?" But a lot of people were like super interested in it, which is great. And we want to put this place on the map, don't we? That's the whole kind of point. So yeah, that was great. What was your biggest kind of takeaways? Tell us about your part of the show, and then we'll get on to talking about some of the golf courses we played and visited.
Well, I think last year, as I say, first time last year in Orlando, and this year it didn't feel necessarily quite as large. I think the actual convention center itself in Phoenix was, the way it was it's a bit of an L shape, wasn't it? So it wasn't that same. You go in Orlando and it's just the biggest room you've ever been into, and it's just it's intimidating in its scale. So going around, I didn't really go around until whatever day it was, Bledge, when we went towards the end, when it was getting a bit quieter and we could actually go and see things and pick up on those elements that you're talking about there, the advances in the technology and the new things as are coming through. And as I said earlier, seeing how elements and the Husqvarna things are a really good example, seeing how my job as an architect can start to be influenced by the technological advancements and products and changes to products, because that's another big thing that hopefully we'll talk about with maybe the likes of Alistair Beggs or something, but how products and chemicals and things is no longer going to be available going forward, which will influence your job, how we have a duty of responsibility in architecture to ensure that the courses are well placed to deal with those things by, getting rid of some of the vegetation, managing that, getting the airflow through. So I really, really do believe, and I'm not just paying it lip service, but I do believe that trying to understand the state of the greenkeeping industry better influences the architecture, and it's all linked, it's all joined up. So being able to go to America, go to Phoenix next year, I think it's in San Diego, isn't it?
San Diego, yeah.
But just
and then back to Orlando,
seeing all of those things, the products, the people, talking to them, I found it fascinating. So that's the real benefit from that is the education that you get from just seeing the cutting edge of what people are researching and trying to achieve.
And I mean, it's such a bigger show than the British one. I mean, but I do agree. I thought the Orlando was I got the area better in Orlando. I enjoyed the kind of area we were staying in a lot better. It was easier to kind of meet up with people more in Orlando, and the hall was a bit better as well. And it's actually just a bit easier to get to. However, the golf in Phoenix was a lot better, but we'll come on to that. For me, I mean, the show, kind of most interesting things we've seen, I think if I was to mark it up top, I think the most interesting thing I've seen was what I'm going to call the Wiedemann Procore, which was the new Wiedemann's version of the Procore, which is called the TerraCore ID. So this is it doesn't have a handle, so it's controlled by like a massive big Xbox kind of controller is probably the best way to do it. I mean, you see these guys that have got the robots that go up and down the motorway bankings, and they have like a controller around their lap or whatever. It's something like that.
Or and like a stump grinder or something like that.
Yeah, just like I've got a kind of picture there that I've brought up. So
okay,
it's a controller that kind of that moves it about. So one of the most tedious things about using a Procore when you're spiking greens for 8 hours a day is walking backwards. It's not enjoyable. It's a bit weird, and it's quite hard work actually. It's repetitive. So this is kind of the idea with this one is it's a hybrid machine. So it's the Toro Procore is a very, very noisy machine. I mean, it's super noisy. This is, which is a problem for neighbours, golfers, or the person that's using it, even if you're wearing ear defenders. But this can spike away, and you can walk side on to it because it's kind of it's tracking. You know, it's done its first line, and then you can turn it, and then it'll recognise where its last spike was, and it can work out with GPS how to run alongside it to the. I think it's got the kinetic GPS, so it can go within an inch.
The RTK stuff, whatever.
RTK, that's it. Real time kinetics. Yeah, someone will pull me up on that. But it can pick the last hole and it can follow along the line, so you're not having to walk backwards. So you're basically just standing there watching it and turning it at the end. So I thought that was really, really cool. And Wiedemann make great machines. I've got a couple of Wiedemann machines and they're absolutely bomb-proof. But this is like, I think it's half petrol, half electric. It kind of, obviously the petrol engine charges the electric. But solid looking machine. So that's just ready to come out. But that, I mean, these things come at a price. You ain't getting that for cheap, you know. We've seen drone sprayers, which were interesting. The Toro and John Deere stands were absolutely huge. And this dude here, he was doing a book signing. What's he called?
Oh, I can't remember. It's the guy in the background over his left shoulder who's the.
This is what was funny, wasn't it? So, Sam, I'll let you tell everyone about it. But the funniest thing about it was I seen all day on Twitter pictures from the Aquatrolls stand. And because I did a podcast with Aquatrolls before the Open, it was getting shown on the big screen. So anytime anyone was up on stage getting a picture taken, I'm kind of hanging out in the background there. And there's a really funny picture that
what the timing was on that loop. There were half a dozen different things that were being shown on it, but it just so happened every time that someone took a photo of me on the Aquatrolls stand, there you were, your
meant to be, pal.
Face on the screen behind, looking over my
that's very funny. Well, tell everyone about your book signing.
Yeah, so that plug. Well, that was a real treat. I've been writing up my tour. I would imagine the few people that listen to this podcast will probably be aware that I went on a bit of a tour, dragged poor Harriet, my wife, round in a van, and I played all the links courses, Great Britain, and that was really sort of indulging my passion for architecture and helped me enormously in that regard. But I then got back into it. Also, I came back from the tour. COVID had well and truly ended. The world was back to normal. And at CDP, where I work as sort of our main British associate, it was so busy that I had all of these photographs, all of these notes, all of these stories I wanted to tell about the courses that I'd been to visit that were just sat there on my hard drives and memory cards and stuff, not seeing light of day, as I couldn't justify the time to tell the story properly. So, to their enormous credit, and I'm enormously grateful. But the guys at Aquatrolls, I met them. We got on well. They were talking. They like telling stories about golf because, they are not an agriculture business that has a small turf department. They are just a turf company. They are golfers. Every single person there in the HQ over in Paulsborough, they love golf. And they had supported Tom Coyne. Not that Tom Coyne needs much supporting, as one of the big celebrity writers of our industry, but they, as another Philadelphia guy, they had Tom Coyne write some stories about golf and greenkeeping for them, and they thought that I could do the same. So it's been an enormous pleasure sort of writing up the stories. I wrote volume 1, which I finished just before middle of December, really, Bledge, which was basically the first 12 courses of that tour, at least if I take it clockwise around the country from Hoylake. Naturally started at Hoylake, it's where I start my golf. So that was course number 1 through to Hesketh, course number 12. And then a few other bits, a bit of background on the tour and a few thoughts on what links golf courses actually are. And that was basically just the first attempt at volume 1. And then volume 2 carries on. So number 13 ended up being, I actually had Castletown on the Isle of Man, but then the courses in the Fylde Coast, so Fairhaven, Rotherham, St Anne's Old Links, and Fleetwood, those courses there across the Ribble, so across north up to Cumbrian coastline, Furness, and through to Silloth on Solway, beautiful Silloth as the last course going north of these links course before you get to the Scottish border. So that ended up being volume 2, and I ended up writing that, in about 3 weeks, really. It was a really tight turnaround on that one, and 20,000 words. So you'll have to forgive me when you read it, and everyone hates it, but that's my slight excuse. But Aquatrolls have taken those and printed them, put a few adverts in it, and sending it out to customers and clients in the industry. So if you take products from Aquatrolls, then there's a good chance you might get one through the post wherever you are in the world. And so I was over there talking alongside Tom Coyne, alongside Drew Stoltz, who I thought was fantastic. I must admit, I get so far down the rabbit hole in greenkeeping and architecture and everything else that the side of pro golf, which he talks about more on his podcast, his subpar podcast, alongside Colt Nost, that sort of is something that I find I don't have as much time to listen to. But Drew was amazing, incredibly interesting bloke. So it was a real privilege then to talk alongside those guys. And be interviewed by, the famous Pat Jones and his pink trousers. So at some point, that conversation, I'm sure, will be. It was recorded, so I'm sure it will be broadcast. But yeah, I had to pinch myself at times, Bledge. I'm there and sat next to Tom Coyne. Tom Coyne signing a course called Scotland, a course called Ireland, and I'm there with my early stages of my little book series, which is far more nerdy, far more of a geeky architecture thing than a beautiful crafted story the way he has written his stories. But yeah, given sort of equal time alongside one of my writing heroes, and it was an enormous pleasure, an enormous privilege to be able to do that. And that's sort of where it's up to. I've got volume 3 to write next, but if you're in Britain and you're not in the greenkeeping space, then fear not, there'll be a reworked version of it, which I'm very proud and delighted to say that the guys who publish National Club Golfer magazine, Dan and Tom, and all the people that work with them there, they're good friends of mine. They have the same passion for these courses, for the architecture, for the design, for the history. And they are redesigning it. It's not going to be an advert thing. It's going to be a sold version that you can buy volumes of and subscribe to. And that will be coming out probably in the next couple of months, really. So,
that's exciting. So
off, mate.
When do you think you'll have finished all 18 volumes?
Oh, yes. It's basically 3 months per volume, a quarter. And there's going to be 18. It's incredibly
That's a cool thing. A cool collection then for someone. I read the Hoylake to Hesketh and the plane on the way there. I intended to read the next one on the way back, but slept.
Very good.
But yeah, it was a brilliant read. Loved it.
Well, look, I'm not a writer. I'm just
well, you are actually. You are a writer, Sam.
I'm just got a passion for it. So hopefully I'll get a bit.
The fact you've written 2 books would kind of suggest that you are a writer.
Yeah, exactly.
Incredibly proud of your achievement there.
But no, it's yeah. I'm proud to have gone and done it and share the story. But honestly, I think that's what I'm most excited about, mate. Is the fact that look, Hoylake doesn't need more stuff writing about it, and neither does Birkdale, and neither does Royal Lytham, and neither do the places that everyone's heard of. They're going to have full team T-sheets. They're going to not be struggling for members. They're going to have good teams of people with resource and budget looking after those amazing courses. And yes, it's easy to write stuff about places that have so much to talk about. But having said that, I absolutely loved, especially in volume 2, I must say, because that's just slightly further away geographically from home and the courses I know best. I was also home grown up here. But, doing the research and talking about Furness. Furness was founded in 1872. That's one of the oldest golf courses in England. It's not undoubtedly a links course, but if you pick up a book called True Links, which formed the sort of basis of my original list, Furness isn't in that book. It should have been. They've missed it out, in my opinion. But, how many people go there? How many people go and play golf at Furness? How many people go and play golf at Seascale? How many people go and play golf at Castletown? And crikey, they're missing so much. And we all sit and moan about how expensive it's getting to green fees to go and play golf. Hundreds of pounds. Well, what I'm hoping is by the end of this series and all the way through, I hope I can open at least some people's eyes to the smaller courses that are often overlooked, but shouldn't be. They are so worthy of being played, but they are perhaps just a little bit off the tourist trail, and are the courses that would benefit most, actually, from having people come and visit them. So I'm excited.
I think a lot of these courses will get a lot of visitors off your kind of recommendation, and hopefully people are listening to this and can join in and discover some new gems out there. And certainly, for one, myself, I've got a lot to tick off.
Well, a lot. I think you're not alone, mate. I think that so many people, and it was nice actually the fact that this was ostensibly an American vacation, this version of it, the fact that actuals do a lot in Britain, and hopefully the British guys listening to this will be able to get copies of it, but they do, as an American company, more in America, naturally. So just the number of people that came up and had been sent one before Christmas and read volume 1 and wanted to read.
That's cool.
Most people go to Fife or go to East Lothian or maybe our neck of the woods, Bledge, if they're coming to England. But not many go to, the west coast of the Lake District.
Cumbria, yeah.
And they should. And there are another dozen places that are equally worthy of people's time, that are enormously good value. And you can go to northeast England, go to the Northumbrian coast, go and see our mate Stu Emerson at Dunstanburgh Castle and Goswick and all those places. So there are so many courses that I'm very excited to be able to just at least get some people in some people's minds.
Well, I'm sure whenever it comes available, we'll put a link on the footnotes, and we can get some copies shipped out.
Yeah, hopefully they won't all be pulped. But yeah, so it was great fun in that regard, Bledge. And should we finish off by getting back to the even more self-indulgent stuff, and you can tell people of a very different style of golf, of playing in the desert, which was my first experience of that style.
Same. So my was lucky enough to be put in touch with one of my old members of Royal Cinque Ports, Stephen, who is a super interesting guy, and he hosted myself and John McLaughlin at Troon Country Club up in Scottsdale. My first ever experience of desert golf, and Jesus, I was absolutely blown away. I love the mosaics and the colours, the diversity of kind of flora and fauna and
It's an
land of
extraordinary
the
juxtaposition, isn't it, between the
weird
verdant green of the fairways,
tee boxes,
everything,
and
and the sand and the wash, as they call it.
stone wash. Yeah, exactly. And just like the variety of cactus. And there's cactuses that he's like, you can't go, don't go anywhere near that one because it jumps. It'll get you. It'll jump, and
Yeah,
you need
I didn't
pliers to
believe
pull it out.
when you said that. I mean, how can a cactus
It's true.
jump?
It's true. Like, yeah. But, I mean, all the caddies said the same, and they were like, look, it's got barbs on it, so when it goes into your skin, it stays in. You've got to like pull it out, and it's like, Jesus, it's great. And they all said the same thing. The same. All 3 times we played, they were like every person we met. So me, John, and the trolley buggy golf, which I've never been a fan of, but it's only way out there. I mean, it was warm, it was nice, 25, whatever. But there's a lot of room. We played through housing estates and beautiful houses. A lot of room between the holes. But what I loved about it was the overseeding on the fairways looked great. Ryegrass fairways, beautiful green colour, balls up perfectly every time, and then the dormant Bermuda roughs, they don't overseed, so you get that definition. Okay. That's amazing. And then you've got to look at Zach Blair's tree farm, where it's just pure dormancy. They just let all of it go, so they just keep the Bermuda all year round. It's a lot cheaper to do that. And then it looks like he just paints the greens there with a spray, with a dye, so he has the Bermuda greens as well. The downsides of this is you don't get divot recovery, but the same time, you're not using water, you're not using seed, and you don't have to transition them back. So loved it, absolutely loved it. I was totally blown away. And then we were going to be taken there again a couple of days later with Stephen to Whisper Rock, where he's a member, the most exclusive club, I think, in Scottsdale. But before that, our friend Kevin, who we'd met at the Open, invited us to play, me, you, and John Hackett, to play Whisper Rock.
What an experience.
Lower course.
What an experience that
Jesus
was.
Christ.
Yeah.
That was top 5, top 3 golf experiences in my life for that place. I just was, the whole experience from the second, the Uber driver was hilarious. Can we talk about Tiffany?
Oh,
do you think Tiffany listened to the podcast?
Be cancelled, Bledge. Tiffany has a path.
Was she a stripper?
You tell me, Bledge. You were the one getting on house on fire. But
I just was interested. No, I just wanted to. Not interested in. I was interested in life.
It could have gone one of 2 ways, couldn't it? You could have ended up running away with Tiffany and getting married, or she could have shot you and left you in the desert. Because
she had a gun, didn't she? Because she would neither confirm nor deny that she had a gun, which means she had a gun.
I'm convinced. But she was great value, wasn't she? In terms of
she was great. She told do you remember at the point of the taxi where it was she was asking about whether we liked girls with small butts or big butts and how we felt on butt injections, and then we started the I like big butts and I cannot lie.
I think John and I were just chatting away at that point.
No. You and her. Yeah. You and her finished that off because from the back of the taxi, you were bellowing out the second verse, and so was she.
Yeah, it was.
And from that point, I think Tiffany.
So Mix-a-Lot, I think, one of the great lyricists of that part of history. So it's only right.
Do you think she's he's the Harry Colt of rap,
of rapping about big?
But I mean, from that point we kind of bonded. But she dropped us off at the front of Whisper Rock, which is a far cry from Tiffany.
I think that I've been lucky to play some incredibly exclusive private places in America, and every time I go, I'm always proud and love the fact that culturally in Britain, we do have a very, very different outlook on the game of golf, and that it's a far more inclusive, far more meritocratic and available for to say it's available to a wide range of people is probably the understatement of the century. But having said all that, it is always an experience when you go to somewhere quite as extraordinary as that, Bledge, isn't it? And that was about as Well, I mean, I think they have 30 tour players who are members there. Mickelson's
Yeah,
a
well, we
member.
spoke to Jeff Ogilvie for quite a considerable amount of time in the putting green, which was pretty
Yeah, I
cool.
had to go up and
Uh,
Jeff as
and he was just like normal dude, wasn't he? He was so nice. He was just like just there to hang out, wasn't he? And just
yeah,
put on a
and
few putts.
clearly, I remember once David Normoyle, the great historian, David, lovely bloke, David said, talking about a very nice club in Britain, he said that everyone here, Sam, has an interesting story, and you've just got to work out what it is. And I thought that was definitely going to be the case at Whisper Rock as well. You know, there's no one there by accident. Everyone there has had an amazing career, an amazing life, has a story to tell, and that proved to be the case with our host, didn't it, with Kevin in particular, and his extraordinary life. But the golf course, I thought, was extraordinary in terms of, you know, the test, that juxtaposition, as I say, and just singular. I've never played anywhere quite like it.
No, it was jaw dropping. I mean, every single hole was unbelievably visual. It was great to play. I mean, the greens were 13.5 feet, so they were fast.
Yeah.
I mean, it was tough.
Didn't take too long to come out to Bledge.
I was done. Troon Country Club, I was worse. I was degreening it everywhere. There were 14 and it was windy. It was unplayable. You could not get near. I had 2 career shots on the par 5 to the front edge, and then I had to hold a 20-foot putt uphill for a par.
Yeah, it was.
So, but I mean,
it's just different.
It was
tough.
beautiful. But the turf was pure perfection, though, Sam. From tee to green, you looked at all the desert. The wash was all hand raked. You know, they must have hundreds of guys working there, just hand raking all the desert wash, you know, around the cactuses beautifully. The cart girl kept us full of margaritas.
PB&Js. I was
PB&Js.
I was on my fast, wasn't I? But you were eating the PB&Js. What do these?
That's what the caddy said. I was my turn on the tee, and they were waiting for me. And he turned around and he says, "My man's crushing a PB&J over there."
You're
like brilliant.
Peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah, that was an experience. But we all played. I mean, we had a great game. We played a 5-ball, which we were like when we went out. Kev brought his friend, who was banter to the extreme, wasn't he? He was funny.
Greg. Golfer as well. He played great, didn't he?
He was class. Like, he was really good. Greg's just had a house on the 7th hole, just living the absolute dream. Retired.
Yeah,
made his money, and then just playing golf 5 times a week, caddy, because you have to have a caddy around there. That's imperative, and the caddies were brilliant. I mean, that was the best part of the experience. The caddies
they were actually. Sometimes you can have a bit of a mixed. Like it's always nice when you have a caddy, but if you have a bad caddy, God, do you sort of
could ruin it.
It really can. And you know, I've had a range, but they were some of the best. They were great. You could just tell they
were brilliant.
Didn't take themselves too seriously. Good golfers. You knew that they got it, and yeah, they really were good.
And the second time we played Whisper Rock, the upper course with Stephen, the 2 of the most unbelievable holes at that top end. So the lower course is Phil Mickelson design. The upper course is Fazio, but there's 2 unreal holes up there. But I thought the upper course, the lower course, sorry, was better. The one that we played with you. The lower course we played with you was a lot better. I found the upper course, they just reseeded the greens with Cretan Bent, and they were brilliant. I mean, they were 10.5 feet, so I played really well around the upper. I played better around the upper. But, you know, we played a 5-ball, and I remember saying to the caddy, "Is this okay that we're playing a 5?" And he says, "The only rule at Whisper Rock, man, is don't be an asshole." And I thought, that's class. It just sounds like there's no rules at all. Like, you can walk about with your shirt untucked. You know, they play golf with hoodies on, whatever. But it's very far from what the golf we're used to, but God, I loved it. And I loved the range. I loved the service. The clubhouse, amazing. The caddie's like, oh, see that guy in front? Yeah, he plays for Phoenix Suns. Oh, see that guy there? He plays for Arizona Cardinals. You know, they were all, like, as you say, they all had a story. And our playing partner, Kevin, obviously had probably the coolest story of all, you know,
well, hopefully one day we can get him on the podcast. And
well, we said to him that we'd get him on a podcast because it'd be interesting not only to talk about.
Well, he should be on
his life and his
if he was going on a podcast,
he
he should be on Diary of a CEO. You know, like he should be talking to Stephen Bartlett about his career. It was the most extraordinary, and I nerded out on that because it was just the most extraordinary career. But we've been talking for a while, Bledge, so maybe one day we'll be lucky enough to let Kevin talk a little bit about him and his passion for golf. And but you're right. I really look. I have a style of golf that I love. I love playing golf along the ground, be it links or heathland, and that understated, British style is always going to be nearest to my heart. Thinking golf, but what
it didn't stop you playing along the ground in Arizona, though, Sam.
I got to try,
because I remember the caddie turning around to you saying, "Man, you gotta get it up. You gotta hit it up there." Because it's just like
my 8.5.
It's not going to work for you, man.
My 8.5 degree driver was a few degrees light on what it needed.
When it doesn't go higher than a cactus, you've got a problem.
But Bledge, what a great experience to actually see a wide range of different types of courses, and remember that this game that we love is in every corner of the world, in every climate, in every culture. And whilst it's the same game, there are times when it's unrecognizable. And broadening your horizons and seeing different types of golf, I think, is such a pleasure and so important to appreciate it properly. Yeah.
I think it was. I'm always very appreciative of my life and my career and where I am. But when you get to do things like that and you get to experience GCSAA, the week we had with yourself and John, wouldn't want to spend it with two other guys, and to have the experience we had around the 3 golf courses is something that I wouldn't have got anywhere else. You know, it's been all the kind of hard work you do in your life to get to the job that you're in opens these doors for you to be able to kind of mix with these people and play these places, and it's just so cool. So it's something I'll never forget. I've got great photos. We took some brilliant photos. I put some up on Instagram and stuff, so if anyone wants to have a look, they can kind of see what it was all about. But yeah, super lucky. And you know what we're super lucky for, Sam? The weather. So you watched the Phoenix Open just now.
This week, it's hosing it down, isn't it? I think they're getting 5 years worth of rain in the 4 days of the Phoenix Open by the looks of it. But we certainly didn't suffer from any of that. It was 26, 28 degrees, and we all caught the sun. And what a treat it was, Bledge, to actually be able to play golf without a sweater on and on your shoulders and
see the sun. So yes, if any of the guys that listen to this encourage Kevin and Kevin, Greg, and Stephen Lyons to listen to this podcast, thanks for everything last week. It really was unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it was an extraordinary week. And I think, Bledge, we've talked long enough about it. This is, again, as becoming a bit of a recurring theme, talking about ourselves and our experience. So I'm very much looking forward to getting some guests back on the pod and talking about them and their careers. And we've got some great ones lined up over the next few weeks, haven't we?
Yes, so we've got 5 podcasts coming out, I think 5.
So far.
So they're on their way.
Lined up to record. So hopefully we'll be able to get the cadence up. And everyone who has been kind enough to say, guys, pull your finger out, record some more podcasts. I enjoy listening to them. Well, it's very nice of you to say it. It's very nice of you to listen. And, message has been heeded. And hopefully over the next few weeks, you'll be able to hear the stories of some people that we've been lucky enough to talk to and will talk to as we carry it on over the coming weeks and months.
Super. Excellent. Well, have a great weekend, everyone, listening to this. And tomorrow, Sean from Birkdale and I are having a lunch together with the kids and the wives. So when we're talking about shop, this is what we always get told off for. So,
well, give Sean my best.
That's tomorrow's
former podcast former podcast guest, as I'm sure everyone knows who's listened to it. But we'll look forward to catching up with him and hearing about the work that he's been doing at Birkdale over the winter. But in the meantime, Bledge, great to chat as ever, mate. And see you soon.
See ya.